Good morning. It is 6:38 a.m. on Friday, November 22nd, 2019. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. So, um quick updates. Uh Although on Wednesday my apartment building replaced my hot water heater, I discovered to my dismay yesterday that it had been installed but was not actually running. Is the hot water heater button without doing the actual heating part. Not optimal, although that's fixed now. So fingers crossed. I haven't checked it this morning, but I did get hot water out of it yesterday. So, also, I have reached the part in the Outer Worlds now where they explicitly say, essentially, like, this is the last mission. So, if you have any other side quests you want to do first, you should do them now. So, I am ready to proceed and pulling that trigger. I've enjoyed that game quite a bit, but I think I am also kind of ready to be to finish it up and move on to another one. I'm still thinking I want to get Death Stranding, but also because I'm going to be out of town all next week, I picked up Luigi's Mansion 3 for the Switch, which looks like a lot of fun. I enjoyed Luigi's Mansion 2 on the 3DS quite a bit. But in yesterday's video, I found myself feeling a little bit like I didn't have anything to talk about. And so what I assigned myself is that I was going to learn something new and then report back. But how to decide what to learn about? I hit upon the idea of going to Wikipedia and doing like random article, but I clicked through a few of those and there's a lot of articles on Wikipedia and there's an awful lot of them that, clicking through randomly where I just feel like I don't think I could talk about that for even a couple minutes. I did eventually decide that one of the things that I've always been interested in is why do we need sleep? But even more than like why do people need sleep? But sleep is demonstrated across like a huge range of living things. So that seems almost more important than just to say, here are the things that our brains accomplish while we are asleep, because that could be a secondary thing, right? Because, we talk about like, oh, our bodies release growth hormone, or here's how we process our memories and, the brain plasticity and all of that sort of thing. And all of that makes sense. Like, I believe that that's true, although we still actually have a frankly almost embarrassing lack of understanding of really what's going on. I mean, we have like the barest possible clues about what's going on, even for something that affects every human being every day. But in any event, part of what I was interested in though is because, like, some of those characteristics that we talk about, do those characteristics also apply to, say, roundworms? Because those sleep too. In some of my initial looking around, there was some question about octopuses and squids and those sorts of cephalopods. Wait, am I saying that right? Is that the... Suddenly paranoid that that's not the right word. I think it is. I will correct myself later if I find that I made that mistake. But there was some question about, like, do those sleep? They're very different from us in many very interesting to me respects. But there is apparently some evidence to suggest that they do sleep. They certainly display some periods of reduced activity, and there's even been there's a clip from a nature documentary where it appears to be an octopus dreaming. And this is a little bit like, when you have a dog that's dreaming, and they twitch a little bit and make little noises. Everyone jokes about, like, they're chasing a rabbit or something like that. But in this case, the octopus was flashing through its various color changing traits, so the different types of camouflage that it would use in different situations is kind of flashing through all of those randomly. But of course, the science of that is, like, we don't want to anthropomorphize or even mammalpomorphize with them, because that might just be the muscles in the skin twitching, right? It doesn't necessarily mean there's any sort of a dream happening. Like, just because we see it briefly flash through the patterns that it might use when chasing a crab, does that mean that in a dream thing it thinks it's chasing a crab, or is it just the muscles twitching? I don't know. But I found, and there's an article here, cyclic nature of the REM sleep-like state in the cuttlefish, Sepia officinalis. Yeah. And apparently, according to this science paper, sleep is a state of immobility characterized by three key criteria: an increased threshold of arousal, rapid reversal to an alert state, and evidence of homeostatic rebound sleep when there is an increase in the time spent in this quiescent state following sleep deprivation. And then apparently, common European cuttlefish show states of quiescence during which they meet the last two of these three criteria, and also display the sort of dreamlike state that I mentioned. So interesting. So increased threshold of arousal sounds to me like, I'm just trying to interpret the science language there, where that, I think, is a little bit like if I were awake but laying down and someone said my name, I would just like, yeah. Whereas if I was asleep, you might have to, be more, forceful or louder or something to wake me. So increased threshold of arousal is that's probably what that means, as opposed to other types of arousal that you might think. Because now I'm suddenly thinking, like, whoa, how's that display on a cuttlefish? Oh. Anyway, rapid reversal to an alert state, though, is one that puzzled me a little bit. I couldn't help but think that there is that an example of when you're asleep and you wake up and you go, huh, what? Huh, huh. I mean, is that what that means? It might just mean that you're clearly sort of in one mode of behavior and then sort of switch over to a distinctly different mode rapidly, I guess. But the rebound sleep is just an effect where, they display these periods of what they call quiescence. And if you keep them from doing that for longer than they would normally go without it, they do it more following that, which suggests a need to recover from the delay. Interesting. But none of what I was finding was really solving the mystery, though, of, like, why is this something that, affects, like, even some of the very earliest, most simple kinds of life. I don't, and so one of the things that I found, I thought was really interesting, suggests that, let's see, where is this? Oh, I lost the, okay, yeah. According to this article on livescience.com, there is some evidence, in fact, that sleep is just something that neurons do when they're joined in a network. Even neuron networks grown in lab dishes show signs of activity and inactivity that sort of resemble waking and sleeping. Now, I think there's an element of that where it's like when we say neurons, do we mean human neurons? In which case, like, well, we know that human brains need sleep, so I don't know. This article doesn't say. I could probably follow that link, but you know, well, here, let's do it for just a moment. A little longer video than usual, but you know, um, see, the link that this article uses is just another article on this site. It's not a link to that actual study. In any event, though, um, but the idea that maybe part of what's going on is that when you have neurons, single cells, having to try to work together, there's sort of a natural need for them to sort of have a period of activity and then a period of inactivity. Just like in terms of why that is less clear still, but if it's all the way to that level, the idea of sleep might be an aspect of, if you have these neurons, in order to work with each other, needing to go through these periods of activity and then inactivity, you would rather have them do it all at once than to just be constantly doing it randomly throughout the day, right? Because if out of all of the connections in our brains, if we had like half of them or a third constantly coming in and out of activity, that would probably be pretty disruptive to our abilities to function at our peak. But if instead you can have them all arranged to do that all at once at a certain period that you could prepare for, like getting ready to go to bed, maybe that's the useful thing. And then all of the other things that our bodies do while we sleep are taking advantage of that period. Maybe. In any event, I learned something and gave me something to talk about. Just goes to show you guys, sometimes if you have to seek out new things to learn about, not just get in a rut. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow for 5 more minutes.